Hello, everybody, and welcome to 3-Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Anthony Wheeler.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Samantha Cotterill, and let's jump into it.
I think we should have an image of all of us just literally jumping, like, into it. Can we add that in post?
We're going to need our staff to add it in post, our team.
The staff is tired of us. That is the huge problem right now.
So now can I mention the play? We've been doing Freaky Friday. We've been playing. We've been sketching. We've been cutting paper. We've been gluing stuff down. And it's been a sort of free-for-all. And it's sort of a reawakening of the fun part of art, I think. But Sam has been diving into it, and she wanted to talk a little bit about it. What do you think, Sam?
Yes, I wanted to talk about it because I know that Lee and I are very different kinds of ADHD.
Can we diagnose Lee on the channel today?
I am hyper focused and just chill.
Is that a possibility?
Anyway, so I digress. Anyway, the thing is, I've always struggled with this concept of play, just for playing sake and enjoying what you're doing and just for fun, and it not being for a designated project that has a deadline associated with it, yada, yada, yada. So it kind of created a lot of conflict within myself because I always felt, in order to be an artist, I am going to want to have to every day just draw because I love drawing or just for the fun of it. And I don't do that. If I don't have a project set, I'm not really creating. I mean, I might be doing other things that are creative, but I'm not making art. And I realized when I joined for the Freaky Friday event, and for those in the podcast, it's part of SVSLEARN, where twice a month, depending on your tier level or whatever that your membership of, there's this live event with Anthony and Lee. And it's just this really fun hour of showing prompts of images, and you have a limited amount of time to just respond and draw, but you're doing that amongst a whole bunch of other people that are also doing it as well. And it was a light bulb moment because I realized that the problem with me and my inability to play, because I'm always being told and hearing the importance of play in your creativity, and I just have always wanted that, is that prior to this, there was no structure for me and no seed to get me to that place of play. I don't know. I'm just trying to freewheel it here. With Freaky Friday, prompts would be given that aren't necessarily ones I would have even picked or even thought to have picked. And then I'm in a situation where I've got a few minutes to just have fun with it. And it just suddenly opened up this, this is fun. And then I found myself on weekends going, I want to take that 5-minute sketch I did on that Friday, and I really want to just play with it. And I never had that experience before. I mean, it's just not been part of my vocabulary.
Can I ask why? Because I'm kind of the same way, but I'm curious for you, what's held you back in years past to just kind of diving in or goofing around or, doing that whole play persona kind of thing?
Well, it's like what I kind of just alluded to a little bit was that I think I need an outline to start. It's almost like write a 20-page essay and just pick any topic you want and go. I'll never do it. But if it's, okay, here's a little structured idea, here's an idea, let's all kind of go. Then there's a structured beginning that gets me across that barrier. It's almost like I have a cliff and there's a broken bridge between this cliff and the other cliff that has all the play in it. And I'm missing some pieces and I can't get to that other. I want to get across the bridge, but I can't because there's all these big gaps. And the Freaky Friday is the planks that fill that gap so I can get to that place of play. And it's just like, it's the structured, even though it's chaos, it's structured because we've got images we're given. We have a short time to respond to them. We're doing it with others that are also doing it, and you're talking and you're joking, and it becomes this fun space. And I can't do it when I'm just on my own and I tell myself to look up images and just, it's everything. It's the whole package of it.
Like a constellation.
Now, with the introduction of Freaky Friday and sort of your bridge, so to speak, in that analogy, are you starting to be able to do that on your own, or do you still feel like, well, Freaky Friday is there, I'm just going to wait until then? Or are you, what's your process like now?
I think it's kind of molding a little bit where I get excited. I'm almost upset that Freaky Friday, well, I am upset that it's not every Friday. It really should be every Friday, because now I have to wait 2 weeks. And
that may be coming to this tier, by the way. Our studio.
I really think every Friday, I look forward to it. I just get excited about it.
I do too.
But then it translates into, like, Lee and we will text each other, and it's kind of happening a little bit there too, where Lee will text me an image and then that he was having fun with and just doing, and then I'll kind of respond, and it's a little bit there. I don't think, to be honest, I really don't think I'm going to ever be doing it by myself, just on my own, looking at images and giving myself a timer and trying to play the game by myself. I do think it's going to take some element of community, whether it's one other person that I'm texting back and forth, but there's going to be, some nuances there, but it's kind of helped really jumpstart that.
So it's interesting. So when we came up with this concept, so Lee and I started talking about just the idea of a draw along, an SVSLEARN 3-point perspective draw along, a year ago. And just the idea was like, we should just get together and just goof around. And then once we really locked in and decided that this was going to be a feature, it was funny because I came back to Lee, and I was like, I think that this should be a great opportunity for us to teach something. And Lee really pushed the brakes on that or tapped the brakes and was like, I don't think that that's exactly what this is. I think that this is much more a chance for us to get together, to really loosen up, to touch on a ton of topics that we just don't normally touch on, and to goof around a lot more. And I think, all three of our personalities are really pretty silly in general. But I think we have very serious lifestyles in the sense where we're all parents. We all have responsibilities and bills to pay, and we are responsible to other people for things, whether it's an art director or an agent or some sort of deadline. And so the overall notion, and I'm really glad that Lee reinforced this, was just to goof around and to have a little bit of fun on a Friday. And I think, I live stream in the afternoons every day, and my live streams are a mix between pure frivolity and me teaching. I guess I really underestimated the idea that I needed one more completely goofy session like that a week to loosen up. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's key. It's the fun banter where you're almost forgetting that you're drawing and you're playing, and you're just playing. It's like kids, when kids are getting together and just drawing and playing, you're just having fun. And
right.
I think
it's not supposed to be a big thing at the end. It's not supposed to be something you gotta, one of the things about illustration that's both fun and for me really tiring is, okay, I got this story and there's this character and I need to really, I like the storytelling part of all that stuff. Like, okay, what's this character going through? What am I trying to show in this? Doing the deep dive of, okay, let me get some reference. Let me get some color studies, doing all the stuff. That stuff gets exhausting at some point. I just want to make a mark and not think so much about it and have everything be like this just process that has to, I think it's a good balance for storytelling, and everything cannot be something that has to have so much thought into it. That's what was holding. It's an interesting thing that you brought up, Sam, is like, I didn't do it either. Draw like this and paint like this before. I sort of was messing around with the watercolor stuff, but I didn't really do it before that. And I can't really figure out why, but if I really think about it, I guess it was because I'd gotten in the mode where an illustration needs to tell a story. In order to tell a story, you got to back up and do these sketches and do, I had this, series of things. It has to be a finished image at the end. Right.
Yep.
And, it was sort of exhausting really for me to think about it. Like if 3:00 in the afternoon, I'm not going to start that process. It's too much thinking. It's too much, especially if I've already been working on other stuff in the day. But what we've started to do here with the play is something where I will literally start just scratching out some colors. It might just be a color idea. It might not be anything. or it might just be a sketch of my cat or my dog or whatever, that doesn't go anywhere. And that is what all the play is starting to do. And then so where that ended up, where sort of all of it sort of coalesced for me, is that I come up with my own little prompt, because I realize like our Freaky Fridays do have a prompt, right? Yeah, this is coffee culture. This is campers. This is motorcycle, whatever our theme happens.
We have done, we all the way from drawing pirates one week to plants with personality another week. We drew weird tanks and robots one week.
Boats, weird, funky boats. I mean, it's
boats
been
and
fun.
landscapes.
And so that was the missing piece for me. And that's what I've started to do now is like I basically did two things. I set up a time of day where what I was telling Jake is my non-negotiable. I'm sketching for this hour. I don't care what else happens. I'm sketching. So that was a missing component too, is like, I never feel like I have enough time. There's always something that's more important to do than the sketching. So I blocked the time, and then I started to think. At first, it was sort of like the Freaky Friday. It's a noun. These are plants. This is a boat. Whatever. And that's sort of fun to do. But lately, in the past like week and a half, I've started to just sort of think to myself, what's going on in my life? Like yesterday's sketch was based on my son is coming back. They're out of town right now, but right when he gets back, they're going back to school. And I had a window of time with my timer. And I thought, going back to school, summer's over. So one last little hurrah for summer. And that's what prompted my illustration. And I gave myself a 30-minute time limit, and I painted the whole thing in that time frame. And I was not going over that, but it was non-negotiable. I wasn't not going to do it. You know what I mean? And so setting that stuff up, like that we went camping last week, and my son was always, we don't do a lot of camping, so he's scared of the things in the woods. And so that was my prompt yesterday. The thing in the woods.
Sorry.
What's that?
I jumped in at the wrong time. I thought you were going to pause. He's scared of things in the woods like his father.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah.
That's true.
I should have done it. We'll just edit that out of the podcast. My bad.
I do dress up in a monster outfit, and then I come in and I just shake the tent.
Like from that M. Night Shyamalan movie when they're in the woods.
I just pictured Fred Armisen doing a drum roll.
But yeah, so he was scared of whatever. And I asked him, what are you scared of? He's like, I don't know. It's just like the woods, And so my prompt was a thing in the woods. Yeah. And then I set my timer, and I'm like, all right, I got to make this thing. And so because there's a time limit, just like Freaky Friday, you have to abbreviate. And I'm also building my design class. And so that's sort of limiting, like I'm working with very limited design options really for that time frame. So anyway, that's sort of how it all has come together for me. And now I'm doing these daily paintings, and I'm having so much fun with it. It's like Freaky Friday every day.
Yeah.
There you go. And I think you kind of nailed something there for being a picture book author and illustrator. I'm always doing projects that are multi-image projects. So it's always a consistency thing, the character from page to page. And it's so refreshing and fun to just do a single image. That's just a single image, and that's it. And I think you should share on YouTube some of the images to show for the Freaky Friday. Like last week, Anthony had posted images from like 1960s English fashion, and
can you share yours? Because you went above and beyond, and then did some more stuff after Freaky Friday.
I had fun. I sent you and Anthony both the pictures because my tech skills are horrible right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to capture it. It's not capturing that window.
It's all right. I'll pull it up. Hold on.
Yeah, sorry for that.
Let me find it.
No, it's okay. It was a really fun one because they were just these great figures to draw from. And there was one with this woman with, like, as my mom said, after when I showed it to her, she goes, "It's just a planter pot. No one would wear that. That's ridiculous." Well, and she's like, none of us, because my mom grew up, she was an artist and in London, and she goes, no one wore those. No one wore those. But anyway, the image itself, during Freaky Friday, I just had a little fun with it, but then I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I thought over the weekend, I was like, I have to explore this woman even further. And it was kind of the Freaky Friday 2.0, where I still gave myself a very short time to do it, but it was so much fun.
It's such a funny image. I can't help but sort of laugh when I see it. Hold on, let me get them all in there because
I was trying to do a window capture, but it wasn't working here. It sounds like I'm
the tech guy.
You were so far away from the tech guy.
I'm the tech guy now.
But it's like it started something where I was sitting down. It was Friday evening or Saturday morning. I was sitting down and I thought, I want to go into the studio and I want to play with this woman. I cannot stop thinking about this woman in her hat. And I just want to have fun and play. And then I had a moment and I was like, wait, what is happening? Who is this right now? I've never said that. That's not how I am. So I was kind of shocked myself. I didn't know what was happening.
Okay, so here's the reference photo.
Yep.
Yeah. So for those on YouTube, really, or those that are not on YouTube, I highly recommend that you visit. And so you can see the image of this woman. And I just was captivated with her. And then I decided to do Sam style with collage. And I love the idea of her really not able to apply lipstick very well. And I just had fun with it. And I really love what happened.
So this was what she did during Freaky Friday,
that's after Freaky Friday.
Oh, I thought this was during the
the Freaky Friday one was fairly quick, like really quick. Just figure this one is. I'm glad you noticed the refined image there, but
because you showed it to me right after that, so I just assumed, but I may have been off on that. But here's the other one. So these are two different ones, right? Or
no, that's the same one. That's the same one.
Oh, this is after you added the eyelashes because I called her out on that.
Yeah.
There wasn't
if you can zoom in on her lips. I love them. I can't get over them. It's almost
really good.
It's kind of, I like to think it's how I probably applied lipstick before my rheumatoid arthritis medicine kicks in.
With just like a little less delicate, sort of touch, right?
So for you YouTube or people not YouTubing, so we've got this image up. It's made of basically cut paper. There's pattern involved. There's some scribbly sort of. What are you drawing with? Is that a Conte crayon or is that just what marker is that at the top of the hat?
It's just a crayon.
Just a crayon. Okay. So pretty, it's this fun and kind of primitive, sophisticated, which I love playing in that space where it's kind of almost looks like a kid did it, but then it's got this real sophistication where it could go in like Vogue magazine or something too. Yep.
I loved doing it. And then this one, this was another one that was inspired from one of our sessions that we did. And then my husband it's funny because my husband's an engineer and let's just say we have very different minds. And he has a hard time where art that is good is that looks like the real thing. And so I think he was slightly appalled when I said, I did a picture of you while you were reading. And he's like, that's what I look like.
Like, wow, I got no chin. I kind of have a turtle head.
It's beautiful. But it's just these images I wouldn't have created at all if I hadn't done Freaky Friday. And this was inspired too from just drawing the buildings. And it's not that I always did the images from the Freaky Friday episodes, but they just started something and I wanted to play. And it's gotten me excited because I'm doing things I wouldn't have really done, especially those two figures. I love doing that woman. She just was so much fun to do. And I really liked him as well. It was pushing me to just be more free and loose. And
so cool. It's so cool. Is this the kind of stuff you're going to be doing on your workshop? Or is it different? How is it different if it is?
Yeah, I mean, this will be different. I'm trying to figure out, because I'm noticing I do, for my own work, I have different sides to myself. I have this very graphic, edited down style that I'd like to call Samimalism. It's a coin, it's a term I coined today. It's Samimalism. And then I have this love of this kind of free play, but I'm going to be doing a 3D workshop that's going to fall more along the lines of the 3D work that I had done prior, like with Look. It's more like with Look written by Gabby Snyder. And so it's somewhere in between. So the workshop's not going to be finally edited down, but it's going to have some of the loose sensibilities of this, but not in collage form, but in 3-dimensional form. So yeah.
So it's really impressive. And I think what's fun about this entire topic of play, I mean, we're certainly focused on our every other Friday live stream event, But at the same time, I think the common theme for the three of us here is that we needed a kickstart. We needed something to propel us out of whatever momentum or direction that we were already going. And that for us, it was community. It was the notion that we were going to get together with like-minded people, but from all over the world who do so many different ridiculously awesome things. And that we were going to kind of get into that melting pot a little bit. And that was really the jumpstart, I think, for the three of us. Since we started Freaky Friday, I have filled almost a sketchbook a month right now, which is, I would typically finish like one every 2 months, but like my production is way crazier. Lee's really started a very deliberate sketching, non-negotiable sketching practice every single day. Certainly the amount of work that's coming out of Sam's studio has just increased, but the playfulness and the silliness of it. And the thing is that, and what I'm frustrated with both of you on is that my play is a bunch of like color pencil scratches that couldn't get sold or do anything. Your guys' play, these are pieces that people want to buy, or styles that they would publish immediately. And so I know you guys might sort of be like, no, these are just my play sessions. It's not really meant to be that. But I mean, you guys are making really, really viable, sellable work.
Don't stop there. Stop. You need to stop, because now you're taking it out of the element of play.
No,
now I gotta sell this.
Now you're taking it out of the element of play.
Hey, speaking of that, were you guys on the podcast where I was talking about that study they did with kids and art, where they split two groups of kids up and they had them draw? Oops, I had started my timer. They had split these two groups of kids up and they had them draw something. And then with one group, they rewarded them with something. I can't remember what it was, $1 or a chocolate bar or whatever. And the other group, they just said, oh, it's cool that you guys were doing that. And then they left them alone again with these art materials or whatever. And the group that was rewarded didn't draw at all. Like they didn't touch the art supplies, but the group that was sort of just kind of congratulated on the fact that they were making things made more art.
Mm-hmm.
I am not surprised by that at all. So when I really started changing my style years ago and finding myself as an illustrator, a lot of it is because I was posting on Instagram, and this is 2017, 18, 19, where I was making a lot of video stuff, but you didn't have to back then. But like I was getting a lot of like positive affirmation, positive feedback on my work. And that really fueled me, sometimes in a negative way though, too. Like if I would make something and I wouldn't get the amount of comments or likes or whatever, the materialistic stuff, it would kind of hamper me every so often. And at a certain point in time, I didn't feel like I needed that kind of validation anymore, but it's unsurprising that I live stream 3 hours a day and I, have an audience that can give me immediate feedback, good or bad. And that, as a social creature, that then becomes important to me. So the reward sometimes is the affirmation. Sometimes the reward is just being able to hang out with other people and make stuff. But it always feels like it's easier for me to make when there's an audience involved.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did push back with you a little bit there, but and
you should. Again, we come at it from a different perspective. I look at things definitely from a business perspective. And so even though, I'm taking that into that realm, there are styles to be found here and things that could really transform a business. But no, you keep your thought going though. I want you to push back a little bit.
No, I just think the pushback is more in terms of allowing the freedom of play to just be play. Whereas if it's immediately responded with, you could sell that, you could make money from that, then it starts to change subconsciously the value and the purpose of, and then you start to think, oh, maybe I should make some more of these, and then I could make prints, and so then it starts to go away from what the whole benefit is from play. And maybe that can happen down the road. Right now, it's just for play. And that's all I want to think about is play and freedom of just doing it for fun's sake. And I also notice that everybody is different, where for me, I can't do the structured sketchbook every single day for 30 minutes, non-negotiable. And that's only because for me, I know that I would burn out and it would become a job. And I think there has to be a balance for myself where I need to, it can't be just, I'm just only going to play when the bug hits me. But I think I'm somewhere in between that and leave.
Well, you don't want it. Yeah. You don't want it to feel like an obligation that you then start to dread or feel guilty about if you don't do. And that's a really tricky moment of keeping it a fun thing without adding a job pressure or something like that. I mean, that's really hard to do because we want to do that. What Anthony brought up a couple of seconds ago is really an interesting idea that, you know, we have this weird thing. I think it's the first time in history where we have this instant feedback loop on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you're posting these things. And it really can change how you feel about the work if you post something and it doesn't hit the way you think it's going to or whatever. And so,
and the opposite. And that is actually kind of why I had to back away, was because the opposite was happening, where I was getting the affirmations of, oh, this looks amazing, this is great. And so then I moved on to the next one, and I wasn't really exploring something.
Well, it's sort of like those kids in that example, right? You were rewarded, and now you're like, okay, do I do the same thing so I get the proper reward, or do you stay in
terms
mode?
Of more just taking it for, oh, it must be good. People said it's good, so now I'll move on to the next one without really going, okay, is it really where I want it to be? Is this drawing really? And it stops me from pushing and experimenting with it more. But it's just.
It's a weird thing to have to balance that out. But I think you're smart in not making it something like for me, I do the daily thing just because if I don't stay in that pattern, I'm a person that's really patterned. I guess I am, but I do have a little bit of OCD or whatever. But if I get into the pattern, I will do hard things over and over again. And that's been good for me until it's not.
Routine.
Patterner. Like I will say, I am going to write down my grocery shopping list every Sunday, and I'm going to do it all out, and it's going to be amazing. And then I do it for a week, and I do it for 2 weeks, and then it drops. So
see that, and that's why setting reasonable expectations is a really important thing. Like you're doing, like, well, maybe I'll do it half the week, 3 times a week, or I'll just do it whatever the case may be. I always use the example that we had some friends in Portland who every year, typically on New Year's, of course, New Year's resolutions coming around, but sometimes throughout the year, whatever, you know, they didn't have kids, no pets or whatever. So they go out a lot and they, you know, drink a little bit, they eat out too much. And then all of a sudden they start feeling out of shape. And so then, you know, like these days would come around, they're like, we've stopped drinking, we've stopped eating out, and now we're going to wake up at 4:30 every day. And they're so proud of themselves after a week. And I am proud of them too. It's not easy to do that, but they went all in and change their whole life. And then of course it doesn't stick. It's impossible for that to stick. So you got to negotiate with yourself. What kind of person are you? What gets you go? Like for me now, coming to these 30-minute sessions is, I look forward to it. I've already set some of the things that I want to try. I want to try this palette. I'm looking through it from it all day. Like I'll take reference photos when I'm out in the world, or I'll see something online or whatever, copy it to my folder and be like, that's an inspiration for my 30-minute session. And so now I'm starting to almost, it's not a job. It's actually going the other way, to where I'm looking forward to do it. I almost can't wait to do it.
It's feeding you. Yeah. It is. It's sustaining like your creativity.
Well, and it's also letting me, the interesting thing for how it's hitting me is, and I got to be careful based on what Sam said, which I think is smart, is watching out for it becoming something else. If it is playful now, I need to be careful of that, because what's happening is the fast stuff I'm getting better at, and I'm starting to understand the process a little bit more. And the illustration work I was doing, I'm doing is now starting to, like the fast stuff and the more finished stuff is now starting to mix in the middle. And I'm starting to think, oh, I'd like to do this as the finished style for some of the work. And so it's kind of meeting in the middle. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. Obviously, you're not going to be able to finish every illustration in 30 minutes. It's impossible. But I am starting to see where the two are overlapping, and that is really getting me going right now. But I got to watch out that it doesn't become like my friends with the exercise, that all of a sudden I've overwhelmed myself. Let me share. I'll share you guys just so you can see how it's playing out.
I think that's really important. I just think anybody who is, and again, this is not an absolute, but I think if somebody is in really a super fun practice and a super fun play, I think you would be out of your mind if you find a mark or a texture or a color that you really like, to not incorporate it into your personal or your business work. And then I think you would be even further out of your mind if you don't think about a way that you could bring that to an audience who would want to buy it from you, especially in this day and age. I don't think it has to overtake everything. I don't think it has to then eliminate the joy or ruin the moment. But again, I think it's that healthy mindset of, this is really fun. I love the way that these lines or these color paths are coming out. I'm going to incorporate this into my other stuff and see what I can do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, something Sam said a while back stuck with me too, is like, and correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm mixing up sort of what you told me, but you had gotten to a point in your work where doing this photography and building these sets became like a job. Like it was too laborious, and you decided to go to something that was a lot faster, that sort of fit your personality a little bit more. And then all of a sudden you found the joy in creating again. Was that true? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I think it was just a mixture. It's a mixture of just needing to change things up. So I think you're right in that it was getting to a point where the steps involved were quite a lot, and the amount of time it took to get a spread done was quite laborious. And I just needed a shift. I needed a change, because I used to be much faster. And I used to do illustrations that were very quick. And I just think it's almost like I just needed to redecorate my room. Sometimes you just need to move the furniture around, and you need to refresh and wake up. I really needed to refresh, because I was starting to feel it was getting stale, even if I know that I may go back to that, because I can definitely get into a zone and make work, and just, it can be all time consuming. I was at a place where I needed a shift, a complete shift. And then this new shift will then re-energize me for when I go, oh, I want to be able to take some time to do work more. So it's just about recognizing that.
So here's how this is playing out for me. So I showed this, I think, last week when we were in Freaky Friday or whatever. But when I've got to the point, when I look back at this stuff, I don't consider any of these finished pieces by any stretch, but they seem like they could be, if that makes any sense. I'm not trying to make them finished or whatever, but I like the way they feel as finished work. And what the big thing that kind of hit me was, you can get a lot done in 10 minutes. Yes. It's more than you think. And
I think you can also, and I'm sorry to interject, but I think it's really important from Anthony's session with you, is that you also have so much life, and it's so easy to lose the life when you go to a refined, finished state.
I mean, that's a great point. And that's one of the things that I'm going to touch on in the design workshop I'm building right now, is that if you keep drawing the same character, like I drew this character, I was talking while we were doing it. I was trying to get the camera set up, doing all the stuff. If I drew this character 10 more times, it would not have the feel, not that it's a finished sketch. I mean, it's really, really sketchy, and all these are, but if I tried to redraw any of these characters over and over, and sometimes I feel like that's what I'm seeing a lot of students get bogged down in. Oh, I got to redraw it. Oh, it's not right yet. Redraw it. And there's something to be said for editing and refining things. I mean, I get that too. But you also, as you go through iterations, you start to lose things. And so that's what made me happy about this work. And this was one of the other weeks. And so I started thinking, like, I really enjoyed the immediacy of these marks as being finished marks. Like, it goes down, it's done. It's not going to be redrawn at another time. It's just, it is what it is. And so, and the scratchy line and all that stuff just really was something I haven't experienced and not that my work was typed before. I'm definitely not rendering, as you guys know, my work. But when I started doing stuff like this and feeling how, like, basically doing almost like a printmaking mark in the background, and then a real scratchy, gritty line on top of it. I was just, and look how loose these characters are. Nothing. They're
but
nothing.
they're everything because there's
if I redrew it, if I redrew it, it wouldn't have that feel. I love this kid. Like, look at that arm. That is the worst arm in history.
But it's the worst arm to have there because it's alive. That's the thing. And
that's what it feels like. It wasn't effort. There wasn't any effort. And I feel like I clicked into a process that kind of matches how I think, how I think about images, how I make images. And so then I started just really leaning into this scratchy, again, printmaking almost style with line work on top. And so these last three, so the first two were the Freaky Friday. And then these are some finished images I was doing sort of at the same time, but I wasn't thinking about Freaky Friday. I was getting more into palette design and, basically how far do you have to move out for an image to hold up is becoming something I'm very interested in. And so you can even see my thumbnails over here. Hopefully they're holding up even at the thumbnail size. And I'm playing with these funky palettes. And so the Freaky Friday immediacy is landing into the finished art. I don't know that I want to finish this anymore, where you're getting these real scratchy marks with watercolor.
It looks beyond finished to me. That's the fun part.
Right.
It's so good. It's so good. And so I have to, because I'm so excited, and it's just an Anthony Fest today. But
we don't need that. Trust me.
This is speaking to every core of my bones right now, because from the session when we were having fun, I just thought, I'm just going to get some paper and cut out pieces of paper. And I find that I seems to be part of my language, and I have more freedom when I'm just cutting and slapping pieces of paper. And then what I noticed in that moment, I was like, there's so much life in these, because I just quickly cut out these shapes and I didn't have the time to trace it, cut it.
Right. Think too much.
So what happened, and this goes into my new term, samimalism. That's what I'm calling it.
It sounds too much like salmonella.
Minimalism.
You just turned a whole movement into a virus, a bacteria.
I'm making a positive change from salmonella to samimalism. Anyway, so I thought, okay, this is what I need to do for this current project that I'm working on with this very simplified mole, that I gave myself this limitation of, I'm just going to cut the shapes out of paper and scan them in, and give myself this rule that I am not allowed to alter the shapes of the paper, the jagged edges, any of that. And so when I scan them in and layer them in and bring them in, create this mole, I'm not allowed to touch those. Those shapes that I cut by hand have to stay as is. And it kept life into the images that I know otherwise would have gone, because I would have traced it. Then I would have cut it along the lines, and then I would have gone in digitally and just gone in and zoomed in and started to clean and smooth the edges, and I borified it. So now
you beat it up too much.
Too much. I mean, and these are kind of, I'm maximizing what I can out of minimalizing stuff, and I'm getting life into the work, and I'm doing how much can I get out of these limitations
without editing too much. I mean, I do think that there's something to be said for not over editing something and just letting it go, instead of always thinking. We have a weird kind of philosophy and illustration, I think, that comes from the art school training, where you do a sketch, you do a color study, and then the finished always has to be finished. It has to be painted to be a finish. And I think there's somewhere in between that doesn't have to be that finished. It can be a little bit more raw. At least that's where I'm going. So let me finish this real quick. So these are the more finished images, but then these, I realize how fast I can do these, and I'm starting to understand the mark making. This is my cat Nim Nim. I realize I've never put Nim Nim in a painting, and I've got all this reference photos from when I went to Japan, which I was painting in watercolor before. And so I was like, all right, I got 30 minutes. Go. And some of these marks I just absolutely love, because I've got 30 minutes. I cannot, like you're saying, Sam, I can't go in and clean them up or do anything like that. So this is my prompt in the morning, my Freaky Friday, basically idea prompt was, I need to draw Nim Nim, and I've got these reference photos that I'm wanting to paint from. Here's the one from the thing in the woods that was prompted by my kid when we went camping last week, 30 minutes out the door. This is the one for summertime. And I'm just like basically thinking big shape. How far can you get with basic shape? This was inspired by Jake today, actually, because Jake was talking about moving into I was asking him whether he's going to move into an apartment or a house or whatever. And I remembered when I was in an apartment before I bought my first house that I always felt really cramped and I wanted to be outside. I always want to be outside. I'm like a dog that way. I love being outside. I like the fresh air. And I just always felt enclosed. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to play with that idea. So somebody who wants to basically into nature and wildlife, but doesn't have the space to do it. So they got this little space outside. And so that is my prompts for these things. And they're not, I mean, I'm painting them like this big on my screen, like literally my hand size on the screen. I'm painting them real small.
Yeah.
But that is where the intersection of a finished illustration and Freaky Friday is coming to me. Like it's coming from both sides. The finished work speeding up. I'm getting farther with the scratchy work from Freaky Friday. So it's an interesting little moment. And then I've been able to take all that and bring it into my daily practice. So
yeah.
Anyway,
it sounds like, so distilling things down just a tiny bit. So it sounds like one of the first key tenets for us to find a little bit more fun was community. So we have that. It also sounds like you two have been finding a lot of joy in setting limitations so you don't overdo it. So that limitation might just be you can't rotate the paper. The limitation might be you can't trace over it. The limitation might be 30 minutes. But that inability to overwork that thing has added more fun and enjoyment back into your process, which I think is really compelling. There's a couple of comments here. We are live streaming this podcast today for the members over at SVSLEARN. And I'm going to dive in real quick. There's a couple of comments and questions that I think are going to add to the conversation here. There was a comment that came over from Sean that says, I really would like to do the Freaky Friday events, but because of my time zone and just meetings and work and things like that, I'm always going to be about an hour and a half late. Should I still draw along with the replay? What would you guys say to somebody in a position like that?
I would either watch the replay or, I mean, I would test it. I would start there. I mean, instead of asking the question, and let me answer that question too, and I want to elaborate on it. But instead of asking the question, just dive in. Just try it. Say, all right, I'm going to try one. See how that lands for you. And if it doesn't, a lot of people do watch the thing afterwards, and then I see them posting it in the community. So there's quite a few people who do that. I think that's a great place to start with it. Otherwise, you could, if it doesn't work and you're like, I can't draw along to this pre-recorded thing, I would say figure out sort of what it means to you to bring in this sketch practice. I mean, that's all it is a shared sketch practice. So could you grab, 2 or 3 other people from the community or that as illustrators, and you guys decide to do your own Freaky Friday? I mean, that's the ideal thing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could easily replay it and pretend that it's live and kind of convince yourself that you are at a live event. And I think if there's a way that we can figure out to have the chat visible as a replay, you could really feel that you're part of a live event when you're watching the replay.
Yeah. Lee just texted me right now and said, how about we just do Freaky Friday 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
All day.
All day. I'm kidding. I think that's great. I think anything that you have to do, I think another part of this whole idea of fun is tricking yourself and playing a little bit of mind games to put yourself into a headspace where you can either enjoy a thing a little bit more, or maybe get the work done a little bit more, or maybe focus a little bit more. But I think a lot of the illustrative stuff that we do here is the head game stuff, and that sometimes you have to trick yourself to find enjoyment.
Yeah. And sometimes you got to trick yourself to get into just doing something, back to the idea of just getting motivated. I know one of the big motivators for exercise is if you're just feeling like, oh, I don't want to run today, I don't want to work out or whatever. One of the ways to do that is to put on the clothes. So say, I'm not going to work out today, but I am just going to get dressed as if I'm going to work out. And you just
basically you do what I do, and you get up and you put the clothes on.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That's what I do every morning. I put my running clothes on.
Yeah. I mean, that has been proven to, because people are like, well, I'm already dressed, I guess I'm going to do it. The other way to do it is even take it one step further. I'm going to put these clothes on and I'm just going to go for a little walk. No effort. So you're basically, I mean, your body wants desserts, right? Your body does not want things that are hard. And I think your mind is, it's a protective kind of thing. And so like, if you start thinking, oh God, I'm going to write this anthology, this huge, 5-book thing, your body's going to sort of shut down. There's going to be resistance there, but you sort of trick yourself. Hey, I'm going to write a chapter today and it's going to be on this. And if I don't get it, then, whatever you got to do to trick yourself to get into it. But one of the things I wanted to go back to a second ago that I was alluding to is I see a lot of people say, asking questions in the community, which is great. We want you guys to ask questions in the community. But one thing I want to encourage is if you have the question to do something and the best thing you can do is just do the thing first and then ask yourself, how did I feel when I was doing that thing? Yeah. Or then you got two things. And so one of the examples I'm thinking of for this particular thing is somebody had done a comic page or something. I think it was for Graphic Novel Pro. I saw it in the community and they were saying, I'm not sure about my line work. Do you guys think I should add a thicker line, or do you think I need a line or don't need a line? And my first response, it was just immediately just thinking to myself is, do both of those things. Do you think I need a line? Well, okay, make the illustration with a line. And now you have an illustration with a line, an illustration with another kind of line, and maybe an illustration with no line. Now that's when you ask the question, hey, which one do you guys like better? So you get community feedback that way, but you've already experienced too. Which one did you like doing and which one do you like better? I think a lot of times we can just put a limiter on ourselves instead of just going ahead and again, having that Freaky Friday mindset. I'm just going to try this. I'm going to add a thick line with a Sharpie, whatever the thing is you're going to do it and then see what you think.
Yeah. Yep. There's another couple of really great comments in here. There's a really good comment from Kim that says that they did a workshop with Melissa Crowton. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Crowton, about playing with art. And she would drop a string on a piece of paper and then draw around it. And then Kim says that's really helped sort of loosen her up. Just that, again, it's super simplistic. It's almost like what you just talked about in terms of the walk. It's just a little thin piece of thread. It's nothing super huge. You didn't have to clear a desk off to do it. Just drop a thing and then doodle around it and see what you can make, which I think is that's super fun. Yeah. And then there was another comment from Simon that says, routine is very, very important. I joined a local newspaper 25 years ago as a student doing editorial cartoons for free. I wanted to force myself to meet deadlines and to work with a team to brainstorm ideas. The comment just flew away. I'm still with that newspaper today, but it was the routine of just doing it and getting into that practice every single day made a big difference. And then 25 years later, that's how they make their living, is from art and that sort of practice. And so you just never know what's going to come out of something like that. Just a little bit of silliness or maybe volunteering your time a little bit.
Can I tell you guys, sorry to cut you off, Anthony.
No, you're good.
Can I tell you my gears way of living?
You can't. Yes, of course you can. You see, you just asked for permission after just telling everyone else that they didn't need permission.
No,
so.
Well, no, but when I ask a question, it's rhetorical because I'm going to say it anyway. Sam already knows at this point. But I've come up with the idea. It started with exercise for me, but I use it in other places. So I'll just share a real quick version of what it is. I realized that with exercise, I started exercising a lot, probably 6 years ago. And that means working out or doing aerobic stuff like skateboarding and running and all this other stuff. And I realized that, what typically when people start a process like, I'm going to sketch every day or I'm going to work out every day, it's typically when they're on vacation or on a weekend. It's a free day basically. And those days are more open. So all of a sudden you're doing the thing and you feel great, right? You got time. Time is the precious commodity, right? That most people don't have, but you do when you start these kind of ideas. And then what happens is you get sick or you have to go back to work or you got to drop your kids off at camp or, life happens. And then all of a sudden your motivation, you're not at a level 10, you're at a level 2. And so I realized there's different gears, so to speak. That's what I sort of labeled them, that I come to start. I'll just use the analogy with exercise because that's where I started it. I have basically 4 or 5 gears and a level 1. I do something every day. That's the big thing, is consistency. And so I said, I'm going to do something every day. But if I'm like totally sick and unmotivated and I'm tired or whatever, that's just a level 1 day. And I wrote out, here's what that means to me. That means I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk or whatever. That, I mean, that is the lowest thing that you can do. I can almost do that unless I have like pneumonia or something. I can do a 15-minute walk. And so I check it off my box. That's my gear 1. Gear 2 is I'm feeling okay. I'm not going to set any personal records, but I'm not sick. I have a little bit of energy. Level 3 is my average day, where I'm just going through my normal workout and I feel good enough. Level 4 is, hey, I'm feeling really good today. I think I may be able to do more. And level 5 is those personal best days. And so the big thing for me is that I show up and I do it. Some days it might be a 15-minute walk. Some days it's an hour and a half personal best workout. But I show up and I always kind of gauge where I'm feeling. And I've done the same thing for my illustration practice. Some days I am so tired and I couldn't go to sleep the night before or whatever. And I show up at the drawing desk. And so that day might be reference gathering for a future image. Maybe I'm not even making a new image. That's my gear 1. R&D, because it's easy. I don't have to do anything. And level 5 is, oh my God, I've discovered a new thing and I'm super motivated. And then the other gears are in between. So just something. I don't know. Do you guys ever do anything like that? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I give myself, like in terms of the studio stuff, I give myself you've got to go in and at least start for 15 minutes. And then how you feel after 15 minutes, if it's just really not happening, then maybe just clean up your studio, rearrange, do something. Like I feel that as long as I switch gears and then I thought, well, if I'm not really creating work right now, I can clean up my studio. Or it's usually a lot of going for walks. I think it's all dependent on, is it just your mood for that day versus something where you're really burnt out, like yesterday.
No, for sure. Yeah.
My mood, I just didn't want to run. And I was just letting the mood dictate me coming up with excuses not to go on my treadmill. And then I had to say, okay, Sam, this is your mood telling you don't want to go. You're fine. You know that my rheumatoid arthritis is so much better when I'm running every day. And remember how you feel when you're done, and you feel so much better. And then you have more energy. And I have to go, okay, I'm just going to go on the treadmill for 10 minutes. And sometimes after 10 minutes, I'll say, no, I just can't. I can't. So then, okay, I can get off and I've at least given it the time.
That's your gear 1, so to speak. But
90% of the time when that 10 minutes has come up, I find myself going, oh, I actually think I'm feeling better. And then I end up doing the full workout. And it's just allowing myself to not do it if I can't do it, but I have to at least try for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And again, you're just kind of tricking yourself to get through it some days. Like there's no real, other than, sort of like you have inflammatory pain. Our situation or our ability to do these things is consistent on a day-to-day basis. Now, of course, there's other limiting factors, like I said, like pain or things like that. But for the most part, a level 5 day in a level 1 day or a gear 1 day versus a gear 5 day, there's not a whole lot different other than just our mentality or our attitude around it. Again, there could be some small contributing things that brings through, or maybe even big contributing things, but our bodies are still pretty much the same. We still pretty much get the same kind of calories the day before, maybe get pretty much the same amount of sleep within an hour or two, but there's nothing radical for the most part. But a lot of times it's us tricking ourselves, or our brains just saying, hey, today's going to be a good day.
Well, also thinking about how you work, and that's something that I think the three of us have done a lot of work on, is like, when and how do I work best? I think that should actually be a class in college. Like, I don't know about you guys, if there's a certain time of day, but in the morning between like 6 a.m. and probably 1 p.m., I'm at my best, with the peak being around 10 a.m. But at 2 o'clock, I mean, it is like it's different now. We're podcasting. It's a little bit later in the afternoon, but there's an energy because there's people involved in it. But if I'm just working on my own, 2 to 5 p.m., I'm worthless. I mean, I can't do it if I tried. And so I know that exists. It's sort of just a pattern I'm also not very good. Like Jake's really good working late at night. I'm terrible working late. I'm just sleepy.
I can't. I think I'm getting older where I can't see at night.
No, I'm the same way. Welcome back to the Old People podcast.
You guys have indoor lighting, right?
No, it doesn't matter how much indoor lighting there is. It's like I can't see. I can't see 6 a.m. either. I get up around 7ish and I have to have my coffee and breakfast and go for a walk. And then I work really well from maybe 9:30 to 12. And then I have lunch and some work. And then I like 4 to 5 hours max a day, but they're both broken up into 2 sessions or thing. Yeah, I'm just
if you've read the book, what is it? Jake and I always talk about The One Thing, I think it's called, or something like that. If you're into something and you're really, really brainstorming, like you're working through a story or something like that, or you're painting or whatever, but you're there, you're present. 4 hours is a long time. You will be exhausted after that.
But then if I'm in hyper-focus mode, I can go and go and go. Like it's just like this other gear comes into play. And when I get really, really fixated on something.
Isn't that great though? When you have time and you actually can hit that flow state, it's really hard for me to stay in that mode for
it doesn't happen very often, but
I hit that same thing that Lee's talking about, that 2 to 5. That was always my absolute worst time. And that's why I set my daily live stream practice at 3 o'clock, and I go from 3 to 6. It used to vary a little bit more, but I always was at my absolute worst. So there was no play, or actually maybe there was too much play, because I'd want to play Red Dead Redemption 2 and I wouldn't be working. And I was like, but these are still very valuable times of my working day that I need to be doing stuff. And so I tricked myself to then have a thing that I needed to be present for, but I made it fun and I made it enjoyable. And I brought people in around me that I knew would bring me really good energy. Then after a certain point in time, that live stream, it doesn't necessarily become a job. It's there, but that energy starts to dissipate. And then I've had to innovate the ideas, the concepts, the things the bits that I do, to then bring that fun back into that practice. Again, to re-trick my mind or rewild it during my most vulnerable times in the day to make it fun and enjoyable and worth it. And then the byproduct of that time is I always get my work done. I always do. But it's that little thing that I needed to be able to enjoy myself and to bring fun back in.
Let me ask you guys this based on this topic, because something that happens to me a lot. I get a lot of energy at the beginning of something. And maybe that lasts through one illustration or whatever. But when you're doing books like we do, there's always a phase where there's 14 people that have seen it. They send back the notes.
Yeah.
And I just find it very difficult to maintain an energy when somebody's saying, oh, they need to wear red pants, and maybe there's a bully, and can you write a bully in there? And they're just giving this feedback, and I know their feedback is well-meaning, but the thing that I was so excited about becomes this collaborative slog at a certain point. How do you get through that? Or do you guys feel that? Because I definitely do midway through a project. If you had to graph it, my energy would be like spiked right in the beginning, dives down to below neutral in the middle, and then I get that energy back right towards the end.
Yeah, I'm like at 70%. At the 70% mark is when I'm done. And then want to be on to the next project. And that's like the hardest part for me, is that stage where I hate what I'm doing. I hate everything about it. And I dread it. And the worst part is with picture books, a lot of times you finish all the interiors and everything, and then it's, okay, now we need to design the title page. And have you thought about a case cover? And then I go, oh, I'm just like, I'm tired. And I think it's smart how now half the people I work with, now they ask for cover ideas in the middle of the whole process, because I think they've learned that a lot of illustrators, if you finish all the final art and then you have to now come up with a cover, you're just burnt out. And it is so hard to get yourself. That's the toughest part, is getting through that moment. And then then all of a sudden you're one illustration away and you suddenly have this energy again, right at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't think people that exists, because it's such a dream to illustrate a book for a lot of people, and myself included. And I don't want to seem like, it's work in a different kind of way than you think it's going to be as a student. I just thought, oh my God, if I'm doing books, I am happy all day, every day. And it's just not that way. And so, like, going back to what Anthony said, you sort of have to trick yourself at that slog kind of part of it to show up and do good work. For me, one of the ways I get around that is I do spreads and I print them out and I pin them to the wall so I can stand back and look at the project as a whole. Just because, like, if I can see it as a whole, I can say, okay, I need to change that and I'll get into starting to work on it. But if it just feels like I've just done a bunch of paintings, which it does at a certain point, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think the hard part, the realistic thing is even though what we do is fun, illustrating is fun. It's stressful sometimes. Sometimes it does just kind of have to be a job, and you do got to just kind of get through it. My dad's biggest fear when I left executive recruiting to be a cartoonist is he was like, I'm just nervous that you're going to make it a job. I'm just nervous you're going to make it a job and it's not going to be fun anymore. And at times it's brutal. At times it is brutal. And I've had those projects where you get to that 70% mark and you think very casually, you solicit feedback from your peer group, or maybe from a group of people who don't understand exactly what you're trying to do, but they're well-meaning. And their ideas are so radically out of sync with what you know that project needs. And sort of like how earlier today we talked about, like, well, why would we ever ask for permission on a thing that we believe in? Just do the thing that you believe in. And it's funny how a lot of times as illustrators will seek validation from certain things, and we will want to be collaborative in those ways. But ultimately, we have to kind of trust our gut sometimes too. And I have found in that really difficult phase that I just have to push through. But there are some days where I get the sweats. I break out in hives. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And then I find that I'm working in my non-optimal hours to get that stuff done. And that my own ADHD, which is a procrastinative type, forces me to be up at midnight working on things that I don't want to do.
Well, one of the other tricks that I have built for myself to get myself through that is never to just be working on one thing at once, whether it's a book or even just a singular image. I'm never working on just one image only, because then you become tunnel vision. And if it starts to go south on you a little bit, the anxiety that comes with that is terrifying. But if I've got 3 or 4 images going at once, I know I can take a break from one, go work on something else, totally different project. I mean, that's important. Not just, I've got all these images for this book, I'm going to do all the images in the book at the same time. I mean, some totally separate thing, different concept, whatever, different kind of art. Going back to the idea of Freaky Friday and play. Otherwise, if that tunnel vision comes in, and that happens also, I see it a lot in the community and with students over the years, where you just want one piece to work so badly that you hyper fixate on it, hyper focus on it, and all of a sudden it's your whole everything, and it's almost impossible to fix something in that mode.
Do you want to? I hate to interrupt. Do you want to see how I am doing that exact same thing? I'm going to bring this up on screen. That was a rhetorical question because I'm going to share it no matter what.
Do it.
I started using a thing called Figma here recently, and Figma has been a place where I've been organizing my thoughts, ideas, and creativity, but also I can communicate with a group of people that helps me with things. We're in the phase right now where we're making new product.
Wait, it's just real quick. Is Figma is a website? It's a
it's a website. It's a website tool. Yep. Sorry for the listeners in the car and stuff like that. I don't know if this version is free. There are different versions that are free that are basically like online poster boards where you can pin stuff up and then be able to organize your thoughts and ideas and things like that. In this particular version, though, because again, as a business person in the illustrator space, I've got to be able to prioritize 100 different projects at one time and touch everything sort of on a daily basis. I can't just go into the tunnel and just work on one thing, because then that one thing might take 7 months and then my family doesn't eat food. So in this instance, I'm working on a new prompt book, and I came up with some color swatches that I was interested in, some sizing, some product. We started kind of working up a couple of mocks to see if we liked anything. I'm working with a designer on this particular project, and then we got further into it. And so as I zoom out, you're talking about pinning things up on your wall. This is a really good version of that. So these are 3 products that we're looking to bring out to the market here at some point. But I'm also using the same thing for my chaotic draw along prompt cards. It'll load here in a moment.
This seems like a great tool to build a picture book.
It's really good. It's really good. And I'll show you how I'm building my 3rd art book using this tool. And so what I've been doing here, I can zoom out to a 30,000 foot overview. But right now we're organizing all of our variants and all of our versions of our products, our prompt card product, and making sure that we have everything in line, and I can make notes and leave notes. And so again, it's that idea. This is this over here down towards the bottom, if you're able to watch on YouTube, this is work that we did 6 months ago that's now paying off sort of up here towards the top, but we're able to iterate upon it. And they're still fun to be had if we get back to the topic of I
like that you can see all the versions at once and see like, oh no, I had something earlier that I liked better at some point, or wow, look how far along this has come.
You zoom in, but you talked earlier, at some point you need to look at a thumbnail and you can't look at each individual thing because there's too much data, right? So here's how I'm using, so I just finished my 2nd art book. I'm really proud of it, but we need to speed it up for the next time. So what I decided to do was go in. This all looks hyper organized. I might have taken my Adderall this day. But as I really listed out the things that I wanted to make sure that was included, the fonts that I was interested in so I could give myself a vibe. And then I started organizing. Don't look at the one that just says farts. That one's weird. Let's get that off the screen. But I started organizing some of the pieces in the categories. So when I ultimately pay my designer to help me go in and organize this and get it done, I'm eliminating all the back and forth to speed things up, because I don't want to get stuck at that 70% again. I'm so tired of it. That 70% is the killer to me. It's a drag. And like, if you're feeling like you like vulnerable at all, it's almost impossible to push through if you don't have anything else fun to balance it with. And so things like this is a way that I'm trying to get that stuff done ahead of time. You know what I mean?
I'm looking forward to seeing it when it's on YouTube, because it's so small on my little.
It is, yeah. On your screen, it's super tiny.
But I have no idea what I'm looking at. I'm just nodding and going, that looks
just
amazing.
little tiny things. But
that's great.
And then again, we got to find joy. We got to trick our brains. But there are days where I find that to be so fun, fun. And then there's days where I find this to be way more fun, and I get to have great conversation with my friends. And then there's days where I get to do the Freaky Friday event with the wider community. And Sam Lee and I are on camera together drawing the most ridiculous stuff you've ever seen. And they're all fun. They're just different kinds of fun. So
yeah, they're different kinds of fun.
Yep.
Well said. I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up.
I think we should wrap.
Look at us. Look at us. Real quick, I will say there's been lots of great conversation in the chat for the folks that are watching us live. It's been really fun to be able to read the comments. And if you would like to be a part of these podcasts every so often, you should check out SVSLEARN.com, and you should see what we have to offer. And maybe you can come hang out with us at one of these live events. That'd be super fun.
Yeah.
I'm having people in here. It's cool.
Cool. All right, who's going to lead us out, Anthony?
I don't know if I have the most updated version of the lead us out, because Jake has been the leading us out kind of guy.
Yeah, but you have the only version. I don't have one.
All right, I'll do my best. I will do my best, but if this is not the most updated stuff, somebody will edit it, because it's not my fault. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. That's part of the script. 3-Point Perspective is made possible by SVSLEARN.com, where becoming a great illustrator starts. Your hosts have been Anthony Wheeler, Lee White, Samantha Cotterill. The podcast has been produced today by Daniel Tu, who's got a lot of editing to do. Boy, oh boy. Preston Smith, Austin Shirtliff, Lisa Fott, Annalise Black have all participated in some shape, way, or form. Now, Lee, what do we go do?
We go draw something.
Sounds good.